Hello, friends and families. Welcome back to Homeschool Together. Thank you for joining us. We have now made it to yet another ancient civilization, surviving on our tour de time. And, so we have hit the Assyrians. And what's kind of funny is we've been talking about this the last few weeks is that a lot of these ancient civilizations are all kind of occurring around about the same amount of time. And we have a nice book today that I'm going to talk about that I think is helping not just me as an educator, but also my daughter kind of keep it all together. Like, okay, we're now having like, it was one civilization, then maybe it was two. Now all of a sudden it's like 10. It's almost like a multiplying bacteria type of thing. So we have a lot of different civilizations occurring, and there's a lot of different ones, and they're all kind of in and around the same area. And we're now starting to rub shoulders with each other, and it's causing a little bit of conflict with between them. But it's cool to kind of now put that in your head as the geography is expanding, as the amount of people is expanding. So this has been a cool week. Last few weeks have been kind of short, and I've started to know that as kind of we're calling this maybe the intermediate period between like our big Egyptian tour, which was about 3 weeks, and we're now coming up to Greece, which I think is going to be 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, it's more than that. It's quite a bit, and we have a lot we want to add to Greece. Yeah. So this is kind of nice to have these like lull weeks, as you were saying, to kind of get in this routine. So
in preparation.
Right. If you're looking at the curriculum ahead, these are weeks when, if you're going to be particularly busy, that's cool. Maybe you wouldn't want to do Egypt or Greece when you're super busy. But these weeks, there isn't a ton of material, so it's better.
If you just do the bare bones of what the curriculum is asking for, in some of these weeks, all you're reading from is the main spine, which is the Pandia Press book, right?
Right, yeah, the History Quest.
The History Quest book. I read from it every week, and I don't know the name of it.
There's a lot of history blank books in our house.
Yeah, there's a lot. But the History Quest book is really essentially the only thing you're reading in these weeks. There's no additional books called out. Right. There's no additional spines or anything.
There is a chapter book, but it's not related to the historical topic. And really, when I found and went to like look around for extra materials when it came to movies or extra books or things, there's not a lot for this section. So these are very light weeks. You can kind of plan that these are light.
You do have the Usborne Encyclopedia, and there's some additional links in there. So you do have that. But other than that, it's really just, the history, any type of videos you can slot in, doing the outdoor quest, the nature study, and a little bit of the art study. And that's really all you're doing. So kind of keep it inside of your head that you're thinking, we're doing ancient civilizations. And it's like, well, some weeks are just ancient civilization. It's not like, you're not doing the Greeks or some of the bigger civilizations that we know are coming. You're just kind of nibbling on these little ones, which are interesting in and of themselves. But just to understand that some of these weeks are a little shorter. So that's a long preamble for a short episode today.
So your focus this week, though, was on warfare and weaponry, right? Yeah. This was really the dawn of when they could...
Yeah, so this is so we've talked about the Neolithic and Paleolithic, so Stone Age timeframes. And then we went into the Bronze Age. And Bronze Age kind of stretched from, early Sumerians all the way up to this point, today, the Assyrians. The Assyrians weren't the ones who invented iron weapons. I believe they said the Hittites did that, but they, like what we've all been saying, everyone takes over everyone. So they, I think, took it from the Hittites, and now they were kind of the masters of iron, and that gave them a lot of advantage. And so that led into our focus this week, which was warfare and weaponry, and then again, focusing on the geography of the time and where they're located, because we just did the Babylonians last week, and you think, oh, the Babylonians, and then the Assyrians. No, they were concurrent times, and they were right next to each other.
We're doing a lot of globe work and map work right now to just kind of help our daughter place where everybody is on the map in connection with each other, especially since many of them, as you said, were at the same time.
Yeah, a lot of times, if you've gone through the around the world journey, you're hitting different countries, right? And you're constantly having to remind, especially if you're doing the hopping one, if you're just not staying with the continent and doing the entire continent. But if you're hopping around, you got to constantly bring back the globe and say, okay, so we're over here now. Now we're over here. And you got to just remind them, I'm having to do a little bit of that here, and also for myself as well.
Right. Yeah, where are we at again?
Yeah, exactly. So let's go into a little bit of the books. So you started a new chapter book this week. We did Kapi Bapi, I think, last week. So you're starting a new one. Classic Assyrian literature. Farming-based, kind of Tigris and Euphrates classic.
Yep. So Charlotte's Web. So we'll do a review of this when we finish it, but we just wanted to note that this is where we're starting.
Yep. E.B. White's great book.
The classic.
We've all seen it. We've all seen the movie, so we're diving into it.
We've all cried at the movie. I don't know. Was I the only 6-year-old crying at that movie? I don't think so. Yeah.
All right. So Heroes of the Environment. This is a new spine book. We like to try to showcase some of the spines and talk a little bit about them. I think we are almost nearing the end of this book, so it's a good time to talk about it. What I like about this book is the environmental, there basically essentially takes one person, a historical figure, actually fairly recent. They're all like within the last like 50 years. And this person has found something that was wrong in their community with the environment. And they trace them sometimes from when they were young, when they were a child, and sometimes when they were maybe like in high school or college, and then the arc of what they were able to accomplish, whatever the problem was, whether it's dirty water or polluting their local environment, like waste from their dump or the need for solar power and things of that nature. They highlight somebody, and then they take you through this whole arc of what they were able to accomplish, the trials and tribulations that they had to face. I really like it. They're very short. They're about 6 pages long, each one, and I think the curriculum calls out like one every other week. Mm-hmm. It's been a really nice little easy read. I think it fits and pairs well with the nature study. So when you're outside talking about the environment, you kind of take for granted that, maybe your environment is clean. Like, here in the Pacific Northwest, we have clean air, clean water, and, our neighborhood is very, very clean. You take that for granted, and I have to tell my daughter, sometimes in places in the world it's not so clean, and we have to look at that. So it actually it's been a nice kind of focal point to talk about, the importance of, picking up trash and taking care of yourself, and also making good choices when it comes to the environment on what you purchase, on what you do, and all that type of stuff. So it's starting that kind of environmentalism discussion with my daughter, broadening her world, be outside of the house and her little community, to know that, okay, there's other issues in the world, and I
like that. I mean, that's what we did last year with the Around the World study too, was kind of that broadening. What I like about this one too is that it helps them see the difference that they could have in their community. Yeah. Like, these were just ordinary people who made tremendous difference.
These are not people trying to save. They're trying to save the world in their own little area. But it's very small, like these, and sometimes they're using technology, so there's like a STEM aspect into it. So really showing, how you can make a small difference in your community. I like it. You're right.
Yeah, I think this is a good book, and we didn't find an easy sub for this, so this would be a good one to purchase if your library doesn't have it, because I think this is really worthwhile, and one that I think our kids might come back to.
Yeah.
So.
Really good. So we talked a little bit about the history book that I wanted to show, which is History Year by Year. And I don't know if we've showcased this one.
We showcased it early in the series.
But I want to bring it back because I think it's important to talk about. I made you a nice little page back here.
Look at that bookmark.
So this is the Assyria page. Now, helpful to read for the Assyrian time frame. But what I like about this is as you fold through the pages, they have this continuous running, they have these little intermediate breaks where they talk about some important concept. But then every other few pages, you can see the timeline returns. Mm-hmm. And what happens is you're getting these little blips of information that comes along the timeline. And so you can see, here's the Olmecs that we talked about a couple weeks ago. But also, don't forget, the Egyptians were still happening at this time. And then, now we're talking about the Hittites here. And then, now we're talking about the Assyrians and the Babylonians. So what I like about it is that it's starting to show you, as opposed to these weak chunks where we're learning about a certain, people or place, that we're starting to fit it on a real timeline, and not our, we're going to talk about our little timelines, but this is actually a real timeline. So you're actually seeing where these different civilizations are living, what they're doing at those times. I like this book for this aspect, because it's, at least for me as as being the educator, it's grounding me on where the relationships are, all these people. You think like, we headed over to Mesoamerica, or we went to Peru. Why did we do that? Well, at this time, this is when they were doing that. So it's like, it's really helpful, especially for me, to keep it all together, because when you're doing the reading, or you're doing some instruction, or you're watching a video, or whatever it might be, knowing that you can pause real quick and say, hey, this is happening right now, but remember, just down the road over here, remember those guys we talked about last week? Oh yeah, those guys are over there. Oh, okay, now I understand. So starting to put everything together. I like this book for this reason, having this continuous timeline that just continues to run through, and then you can just pick and choose what you want.
This is the only history. So this is History Year by Year. It's, of course, a DK Smithsonian, as we are wont to buy. But this is the only book that we have that does this. So we have History ! we've got the Usborne Encyclopedia, we have History Quest, but as you said, all of them just focus a page or a spread on a particular area, and none show the through line.
Well, this is the harder way, I think. This is the harder way to show the history, because you want to focus, like what we're doing every week, focus on a civilization, makes it simpler for the learner because they're younger. But this, from the standpoint of like trying to keep it all together and creating this and understanding the flow, I like this for this reason.
This is almost like I kind of feel like this is the world building.
Yeah.
Right. The story of each culture is the small, or each civilization is the smaller story, like the movie, right? But this is the whole world building around it.
Yeah.
So if you don't, we highly recommend this book. But if you don't get this book, get one book with at least some sort of through timeline, because it's really a terrific way to kind of like tie it all together and give them a broader picture.
Absolutely. So just wanted to give a little update on our ongoing timeline.
Right.
So this is A.
So these are 14 by 22 project boards.
I got these at Walmart for like $3.
We like them because they're not huge.
Yes.
And we can put them away so that our 3 or 4-year-old...
They store on the bookshelf where all the books are really nicely. So you can just pull them out. And you can tell this has been going for about almost 2 months now, and it hasn't fallen apart. So
we just figured something on the wall. I mean, if our 4-year-old was older and less chaotic, then maybe we could just put a big old thing on the wall. But this is nice if you want something contained.
Oh my gosh, you're like the neighbor in Home Improvement.
If you want something contained, this is nice. So we'd gone all the way through Babylon was the end, and now we've got the new one here.
Ariel, they're going to see behind the scenes. We're a little ahead right now.
Just open one flap.
Okay.
Just open one flap. There we go. We were a little behind on our videos.
Guys, we're behind on the videos.
Don't judge us.
Don't judge.
We might be wearing the same outfit in the next video. Don't judge.
Don't judge us.
So here's the Assyrians.
Yeah, so this is a cool little picture. We were talking about the warfare, the iron weaponry, the siege weapons, the way the Assyrians were fighting their battles in that time was very ferocious, very violent. And so in the Usborne Encyclopedia book, they had this cool little diagram of like a siege. They had this like kind of siege engine that was attacking the wall of a city and everything. So I roughly drew it, and then she kind of filled it in and then colored it in. So nice little thing, that kind of putting it all together. Obviously, you can see we're going on to the Persians next week.
But these are great. If you can get something small like this.
I'm going to buy another 1 or 2 of them. I think by the very end, since are we on week 13 or 14 or something like that? We're not even halfway through, so we're third. So I might have to pick up 2 more of these, I think, by the end. But it'll be nice. It'll be nice to have these like dioramas.
I think it could be cool to have something big on the wall, but if your family has littles,
and this is really nice if you have not a lot of space.
Right. You could also just add these to the wall and just add them in blocks too as you got them done. But it's a good way to go. So yeah, these are 14 by 22 inch boards.
Absolutely. Moving on, we did a little bit of video stuff because there are tight weeks. I like the audio visual aspect of it, and I found a new YouTube channel, and Ariel will go ahead and link it in the comments. It's called The Fall of Civilizations, and they put together these absolutely gorgeous long documentaries. So the one we watched this week was on the Assyrians, called the Empire, the Age of Iron. And we'll go ahead and put a link down below for that episode. It's about 3 hours long. I had referenced earlier last week about that cities in the desert thing, and they right at the beginning of this episode, they talk about that. And I thought it was Alexander at the time, but I think it was another guy called Xenophon that went through there and wrote about what he had seen. And he specifically saw about the Assyrian, city, I think, of Nineveh, that was just, laid in ruins. And then they walked through that, and they were just amazed at how large the city was. So that episode was really cool. We watched about half of it, about an hour and a half into it. And it goes through all the technology, the ironwork, and everything.
It's very interesting.
And it pairs nicely with the iron talk. So they spend a little bit of time on the ironworks. Because you do that in the history hop for the History Quest book. You talk about the ironwork, and in the reading for that week, we talked a lot about the iron being a very important thing, because that was kind of their advantage at the time. Outside of their standing army, which was the first time anyone had a standing army, it was really, really cool to kind of read about their warfare. And they covered a lot about it because that was kind of the thing they were into, that making iron. But so yeah, this was a short week, obviously a short episode. Take advantage of these shorter weeks to catch up on other things if you're doing reading or math or something of that nature, or just to get outside and have fun. For us, it's starting to get into the fall. It's kind of October-y time, so the rains are returning. So we spent a little bit more time on the videos this week than anything.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, stay tuned. We'll be in the Persians, next week.
Yes. Yeah, as the Assyrians and the Babylonians meet their maker.